Hi, I'm Nancy Nangeroni.
I'm Gordene MacKenzie.
And this is GenderVision.
Lots of people making big bucks. You and me, babe, I see we're out of love. Well, I heard a voice from a high above. It don't cost a thing just to be in love. We don't have anything but love.
Hi, welcome back. This is a special GenderVision Extra segment, and we're back to talk some more with Jane Caputi.
And Jane Caputi is a women's studies professor at Florida Atlantic University. She also has written and co-produced the film Pornography of Everyday Life, and she is a widely published author.
Thank you. And she's gonna talk with us some more about gender and racism in the 2008 presidential campaign. So, should we start? We've got some more images and we've got a video. Mm-hmm. So let's roll that video.
Okay, let's look at
You want to set it up for us?
Yeah, well, this was a very significant, it was after Barack Obama returned from his trip overseas, and he was met with huge crowds in
That's
Europe.
right, it was a huge success.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it was in June 2008.
He had 200,000 people in Germany attended a rally for him.
Yeah, and when he got back, the McCain campaign put out this commercial, which has a lot of different kind of messages going on. It's very interesting to interpret. It also was, I think, a very significant, for a while it seemed to be turning the tide toward the McCain side.
So it really hurt Obama.
I think it did, but you know, other circumstances have intervened since then.
Certainly.
But let's look at this.
He's the biggest celebrity in the world. But is he ready to lead? With gas prices soaring, Barack Obama says no to offshore drilling and says he'll raise taxes on electricity.
Okay, so they started off with...
Yeah, they start off showing... what we have here is like several different kinds of icons. We have the Washington Monument and this tower from Germany. And then you have the two young blonde celebrities, Britney Spears and Paris Hilton. And this ad immediately aroused a lot of commentary. Bob Herbert, who's a columnist for the New York Times, was very angry at this ad. He said he thought this ad was playing with racist stereotyping, showing the familiar kind of threat,
Yes.
the white supremacist interpretation of threat of a black man with young blonde women. And he saw that going on, and he pointed to the phallic towers going on.
And Aryan Nation in there.
And you also have the crowds chanting.
That's
chanting.
what bothered
Yeah.
me the most
on
the
the
ad,
mob.
even beyond the images on there, hearing that chanting, almost cult-like chanting that
It
they
was.
had on there.
And
Yeah.
so, I mean,
Very
the crowds were
disturbing.
doing that, but it certainly puts us in mind of, that kind of cult-like or even fascist appeal, right?
Absolutely.
It also maybe arouses some of those fears around the confusion of Obama with Muslimism. Some people, still think that he's Muslim.
Yes.
And, this sort of success on foreign soil and, giving rise to this mob,
Right.
scary mob stuff happening on foreign soil, and then coming back here and bringing that back here with them.
There's a lot of...
At the same time, we're getting
Fear-
bombs from foreign soil.
Fear that he'll be a dictator.
Get-
I mean, that's definitely, I think it's a real Hitlerian analogy that they're doing there. I mean, it
interesting.
functions on so many levels, and we could keep reading it, and again, someone else is going to read it very different.
But I'm going to read it a
than
little
we
bit
are.
more
Yeah.
before we go on.
Got
Which
to.
is, the idea that they were... I mean, one of the major themes against Obama is that he's alien, he's exotic. He's somehow, I even have a button, John McCain, older, wiser, Americaner, right? Which isn't even a word,
Yeah.
So, yes, associating him. I see something else going on in this ad as well, which relates to what we talked about in the first half hour, which is that, when they're saying he's a big celebrity, they're not putting up they're putting up young blonde women as the celebrities, not, and so in a way,
Not
they're,
people who earned their celebrity.
Not, yeah, and they're also seen as not those who've earned, but really empty-headed celebrities
exactly.
or addled celebrities. But I think basically they're calling him a girl here. So while the ad is trying to have it two ways, it's associating him with like the phallic threat and the racialized phallic threat, but also with the quote-unquote dumb blonde.
That's a good point.
Isn't that incredible?
Good point.
They're calling them both at the same time, and
Yeah.
you know what? It doesn't have to be rational. It doesn't have to be logical. If it has that sort of double whammy
That's
of
right.
stereotypic negativity, it can work.
That's how propaganda works. And we have to remember that advertising was developed from propaganda that was used in the war. They don't
That's
want
right.
us to think about it. They just want us to respond to it on an emotional level.
And propaganda was developed from religion. You and I both grew up
Oh, that's
Catholic.
right.
We'd always hear about the propagation of the faith, where you had to go missionary, do
interesting.
missionary work and bring the faith. So propaganda actually comes from propagation
Very
of the faith.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dictionary divination.
Dictionary divination, indeed.
Shall we look at some more
Yeah.
images?
Yeah,
Some
let's
of our
look at some
stills?
more
Okay,
images.
let's see what we got here.
Yeah, this is very typical of the, the distortion and the rumor going around, really based in Islamophobia, that would say that Barack Obama is a Muslim. And the first thing you have to say is that Islam is one religion, like Catholicism, like Judaism.
Right.
Like it's also, of course, there's atheism, there's Buddhism, there's pagan goddess worship, and that why should only one religion be seen as acceptable?
Absolutely.
So, and then the second part of Islamophobia, not only that Muslim is a bad religion somehow, is that all Muslims are like unto Osama bin Laden, right?
right.
And so you get all that going on,
A
and
lot of xenophobia there operating.
Right.
right,
Yeah.
distortion, lies, and xenophobia all at once,
Speaking of distortion,
Oh.
we have Obama waffles.
right?
Waffling the world over, change you can taste.
Yeah, and so we have a very stereotypic kind of a sort of an Aunt Jemima kind
Very
of
much.
association
Yeah.
here. And this one came to attention because it was being sold at the Value Voters Conference,
What
which
was
is a
Value
right-wing.
Voters?
It's a right-wing Christian group, and this was being sold. And then finally there was some protest, but it was sort of it was reported differently. I wasn't there, but that there was a very lackluster attempt to shut down. And supposedly television personalities who have news shows on CNN stood and posed,
And I saw
smiling
that.
with the box
That
of
one,
waffles.
Not supposedly, definitely.
That was
happened.
definitely
saw
on the
that?
internet.
Oh, yeah, I saw
Lou
that.
Dobbs
Lou
stood there.
Dobbs was
Lou
there with
Dobbs.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a photograph of him, smiling.
Of course, anything can be photoshopped, but
Of course it can,
Oh,
yeah.
that's true.
That's true.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, who
but
knows?
this was genuinely sold, and I ordered it. And it's in the exhibit. We're basing a lot of these images come from the Political Circus exhibit at FAU. Yeah.
Not the most Christian thing. to
I
want to
can
do.
remember feminists saying, please liberate Aunt Jemima, get her off that pancake
Oh, of
box.
course.
Right.
Yeah. Ooh.
This is an example of the ageism,
McCain showing a wheelchair.
right? So it's a slam, obviously,
Right.
At his age.
at his age, but also at anybody who is not totally abled, right?
That's right.
I mean, that it's,
Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the president
Right.
who served longest of all the presidents, who was beloved,
right? It was extremely effective, right? Yeah.
who was confined to a wheelchair.
That's
So
right.
we get, again, often a combination of these kind of prejudicial attitudes and, solidified into this one image, right? And that can transmit so many messages at once.
All
It's
this cultural anxiety and cultural prejudices getting enacted in the campaign. Whoa.
Hillary's
Watch out,
coming.
Hillary's coming.
And she's a witch.
Now somehow I like that one.
I know, this one you have to have. It reminds us of how Halloween is our
Yeah,
favorite holiday and
that's
all
right.
that.
Yeah.
But of course, it's not really intended
they
that
don't
way.
mean that.
They don't necessarily mean it that way.
And most people would read that on a negative level. I
Right, that
think.
Hillary.
Yes.
So if a woman is powerful, again, referring back to the
Witch.
earlier show too, she's either a man, a lesbian, a freak, or a witch.
And portraying women as witches too harkens back to the witch burnings that happened in Europe, the huge witch trials.
And
Yeah.
torture and murder.
Yeah, and some people think up to 9 million
Right.
women
Right.
and men who
Millions.
didn't fit the mold of how men should be and were called faggots and were
Right.
used for the actual kindling in the witch trials were burned. So that, even on many levels, harkens back to that, let's get rid of her.
And even Sarah Palin,
Oh, Sarah
beware the
Palin,
curse of the
too.
Wasilla witch.
And that probably coming again from left.
Probably coming from the left,
No
yeah.
doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So
Yeah.
again, using a deeply misogynist, as you point out, historically lethal stereotype
Very, very lethal.
to aim at
That's right.
women.
And to really denigrate another religion, too.
To denigrate, thank
Yeah.
you, yes. Good point.
Here we have the hero and the hottie.
Oh.
And this is Sarah Palin, again, reduced to sex object and pornographic fantasy over and over. And again, this is from those who support her, the hero being John McCain and the hottie being her. And again, this diminishes her as much as it supports her.
After the vice presidential debates, I was tuned into CNN, and I can't remember who the commentator was, but they were asking people, you know, how do you think Palin did? How do you think Biden did? And he said, I think Palin did really great, and she's really attractive.
Right.
And he couldn't stop saying how attractive she was there.
Do you think Palin uses her attractiveness? Do you think she dresses to be attractive in knowing that it will benefit her?
Well, she says she's tried to do both. The hair up on the head and the glasses were a way to try and make people take her more seriously.
Yeah, more nerdy.
But she also does obviously dress in a way that looks attractive.
Those pumps, those shoes.
But now we're back onto
A really feminist issue and class issue.
It's a
too.
class issue in some ways because it's often associated middle-class women with dressing a little more frumpy and a little more, you know, again, which looks more like what the professional white middle-class man looks like, right?
Okay.
Whereas working-class women of all ethnicities often dress a little flashier. Think Erin Brockovich, right?
That's right.
So I don't want to just immediately categorize like her style of dressing. What do you think?
Or take it on in terms of this has been a real feminist argument in terms of what if women want to just dress the way they do for themselves and they're not out there to influence or garner any attention or even get any male attention for it, but they just feel comfortable and okay with that.
Right.
So
Which is definitely the way you dress.
it's to please myself.
That's right.
And maybe you too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And me too.
Yeah.
I'm not out there trying to score somebody or trying to.
Nope, I
turn
don't
heads
think
or
any of
anything
us
like
are.
Yeah.
Here we have old fart and bimbo.
Yeah, so you see hero and hottie gets turned into old fart and bimbo. But they're basically still treating her as a sex object, just with a more pejorative connotation here than hottie.
Yeah.
So these are people that don't like them.
Yeah, these are people that don't
Don't like
it.
McCain or
you
Palin,
think?
yeah.
And this, I think, is so interesting. Palin for VP, God, guns, and glory. So think of the things that worked against Obama. Supposedly he's a Muslim, right? So God's not on his side. Glory, he's not really as American.
Yeah.
Guns, we'll talk about that too.
Yeah.
But Palin for VP. And what I find so interesting is that this completely coexists with Palin as pornographic fantasy. And you'll see that in the next image because as
What could be more red, white, and blue?
than the porn, right?
McCain and MILF. Of course, MILF is mothers I'd like to
Something
fool
we
around
can't.
with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
we can't say it on the air.
Right.
So,
So God, gun, glories, porn. God, guns, glory,
Glory,
porn.
porn.
And they all really
they all
do.
go together.
And they
together.
do, they put her in a real porn
And again, that
position.
could be a Photoshop.
I think it probably
Probably
is.
is.
I think that it's probably
Seems
her
likely.
head on the body, just like the cover of the magazine with,
I
with
love Photoshop,
Obama.
but boy, it makes it hard to get to the truth, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think there's an enormous amount of material on Palin as sexual pornographic
Here
fantasy.
we go
example.
again.
This-
And that was Photoshop.
Yeah, this one we know is fake.
Yeah.
But we're putting it up here to look at the kind of class prejudice and how she's being presented, how she's being constructed, and how she's being criticized.
Yeah.
That one, I got that. Someone sent it to me that was sending around a list. And when I saw it, I was thinking they're trying to portray her as, white trash. Again, the class issue.
I think that's what's
Yeah.
going on here, right? The guy smoking in the background, beer, I don't know what we see around.
Yeah.
But look at the gun, and the gun being there. And, think of the gun as an American icon, right? And all the meanings of the gun. And
Guns are uniquely American. We export 52% of the world's guns.
Yeah.
We are the supplier of guns to the world.
It's our second biggest export after popular culture.
yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And so
Guns and pornography.
So who could stand with a gun? I mean, she is a hunter. She's from Alaska and a rural background, so she does. And, again, we'd get into all kinds of geo-regional and class issues talking about that. But every male president and presidential candidate usually puts on some camouflage at some point. We know Dick Cheney goes hunting, right? and
he
hunts.
shoots
But they're
people.
not made fun of for it. She often is. And so you should be against them.
Interesting.
But the gun thing, I think, is also sexualized in her case. And we often get imagery. of her as in this one, which makes her sort of a phallic woman and sexualized.
It kind of plays into the whole dominatrix.
The dominatrix
Definitely
theme.
does.
The strong woman who's going to take care of things and make it all work for you, who's going to take you to bed and show you a good time, and you can just lay back because she's going to dominate you and make it easy.
Major pornographic fantasy that comes in big time.
Big
And again, there's a lot of
pornographic
material
fantasy.
on that. But I think we also have to see race privilege here. Can you imagine if it were Michelle Obama holding that gun?
Well, we had the New Yorker magazine was
It certainly would not
probably
be
the
seen as a
closest to
positive.
that.
I mean, this is a
Right.
positive
This
thing,
is
right?
positive.
This is something that people are going to go, that people who like her are going to go, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think if we have some other images where they're posing her with a gun from definitely those who support
Do
her.
we have more?
No, we don't, I guess,
Okay.
but there are plenty of those.
yeah.
Okay, well, let's go. Here's the one with Michelle Obama with a gun. Mm-hmm. And
how did people
boy,
talk
this
about
creates a
that?
different feeling.
Well, this was supposed to be satire, right, on the
Yeah.
cover of the New Yorker, and the New Yorker pretended to be completely confused when everybody protested this, and the Obamas were not happy with that image. But of course, it doesn't really work as satire because there's nothing to indicate that the remove or the attitude you're supposed to have toward this, there's nothing to indicate that this is a caricature.
That's
it
right.
looks just like some of the negative stereotypes that have been hurled at the Obamas.
Exactly, the flag being burned, the picture of Osama bin Laden over the fireplace.
And reminiscent of Angela Davis.
Angela
and the Black
Davis,
Very
Panthers.
much Angela
Afro,
Yeah,
Davis.
right.
That whole
Fox-
And Angela Davis, of course, known for being an angry, black, radical
Right,
woman.
which is the stereotype of the angry black woman.
That's right.
Um,
And Osama,
At least that's how the media portrayed her.
Obama in Muslim garb.
Right?
Yep.
And of course, doing the gesture that they had done on TV
Oh,
that a
that
Fox
fist bump.
News commentator
Yes.
said a terrorist fist jab.
Yes.
So New Yorker might think for its like little circle of in the know that they're
Yeah.
making fun of this, but that's not. I even had somebody say to me once, I could never vote for Obama. Look what the New Yorker said about him.
They
really
thought
truly.
that. Yeah,
I know
see,
you
it's
can't
that
believe it, but
different
people.
way of interpreting.
Wow.
So there, but and they didn't put anything in the image. Like it could have been somebody, wearing a Republican T-shirt, looking at this picture as if it were something. I'm not really a
Yeah.
satirist myself, but there had to be something to introduce
Put it
the
on the
idea.
drawing board of a Republican strategist or
Something,
like that.
right?
Yeah.
But not just on the cover by itself. Thank you.
Because that indicates that that's what we think.
So
in
this,
the
in fact,
magazine.
was damaging to Obama.
Yeah.
So yeah, the different gun. Oh,
Ooh.
and now we could get into we're back to a little.
Now this is pretty blatant. And you thought Medusa was a bitch. Beware Hillary in 2008.
And look, Bill's at then. And so then we get,
Is that Bill?
that's Bill,
Bill's
Bill?
heads?
at the end of all those serpents.
He's one of the Hydra heads.
Yeah.
Of course, because we're afraid of what Bill will do as first man.
Put out by a group, Hillary scares me. I bet she does.
Scares me.
But, and there's others, chose Barack and Michelle, and it says scary for Barack, scarier under Michelle.
Under
Oh, yeah,
Michelle?
yeah, yeah.
Really?
That
Yeah,
women
yeah.
are to
Women
be
are
feared
somehow,
more.
yeah. And this goes back to this whole idea that women aren't really human, women are really monsters.
Monsters,
There's
I
some
agree.
kind of, so you get this really deep, and remember, one of Obama's strategists, Samantha,
Yeah.
his name escapes me right now, but she did say Hillary is a monster, and she did step down from
Yeah,
being a
yeah,
non-paid
there was
advisor to
that.
the campaign.
That's
So we
right.
really all have to be very careful about these kinds of dehumanizing stereotypes.
It's pretty intense.
It's the gender currency, and it can be very dangerous. Oh.
And
Yeah.
this one's really filthy. Stop mad cow disease. No Hillary.
Whoa.
We've also got Obama as Curious
Calling her a
George.
cow.
A lot of dehumanization that takes place.
Do we have the Curious George?
Probably not here right
Okay.
now.
But that's body stigma again.
Body stigma, and again,
Well,
this-
cow is such a pejorative
Oh, yeah.
towards women. You call a woman a cow, that's just a filthy thing to
and of
say.
course, this is what
But
we
she's
might call.
spreading disease, that she's spreading
And she's spreading disease.
Yeah.
She's infectious, and
Oh, yeah.
and also, what about the animals? Like, why are animals seen as a lower
I
order?
agree.
That whenever you want to put a human down,
Well, that's another whole...
that's another whole show.
We could
I
do
know.
many
Well,
shows
and
on that
there are whole layers too, because if you want to put men down, what do? You put them as women. You want to put women down, you put
And
them
some
as
men.
animals, and particularly men of color. They become more exotic and more animal-like as well.
You do see sometimes. This is another witch one, but if I can say on the animals,
Oh,
animals in many cultures traditionally have understood power, and we still say that. We don't have these cars, but you'll call a car a cougar or a jaguar,
That's right.
To like try and draw upon
Yeah,
some
you
of
want to
that
evoke the strength
ancient
and
idea,
all
the
that good
power
stuff.
of the animal.
Oh,
But
yeah.
then we have this other kind of way of putting. But Sarah Palin will call upon,
Although
like Sarah the
nobody really
Barracuda.
evokes the power of cows.
No,
It's just certain
it's
animals.
predators.
Yes, exactly. Prey.
The ancient Egyptians
Exactly.
did. You had Hathor, the
Right.
cow goddess, but see, she's got a little bell around her, so
She's
she's
possessed.
been completely domesticated, and someone that is just used for milking. Because look at
Yep. Good
maybe
point.
someone that's
She's been domesticated.
she's
That's right.
completely
She's been
domesticated.
rendered
Probably
powerless.
all she can do is give milk and walk around probably a very small area with her little bell on. I find this particularly horrifying.
Yep.
And of course, more witches.
Tony Rotten Clinton.
And the cackle is like all over the news. It was everywhere. Oh, Hillary cackles, and they made fun of her. There's all kinds
That's
of
right. There was
YouTube
all that
and all
publicity
that
around
kind of
her laugh.
around her laugh.
Because she wasn't laughing right.
She didn't laugh right, according to
Makes me want to.
Come on, Gordene, I want to hear it.
I think sometimes you have to give a good,
You have to
good
give a good
cackle, and you
cackle.
have to give a real laugh that you have inside of you, and that goes back to the whole "shut up" to
Right,
women, which is a
exactly.
big thing. Shut up, Hillary. Make me a sandwich again. Is that we don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear another sound. We can only hear this monotone, and this monotone can only exist in one singular white heterosexual powerful male body.
That's right.
God.
If God were a woman, his name would be Sarah.
Right, how's that?
Now that one,
What is that?
well, that one seems positive.
Well,
for Sarah.
it's put
For
out
Sarah
by
Palin,
some.
I
It
mean,
is.
it's-
But God is still a man, and when God is a man, women are witches and monsters,
Exactly.
Oh, if God were a woman. Okay, the
Yeah.
presumption being God's not a woman, of
And
course.
could never be.
Right.
But it
Right.
refers
Well,
again
that's-
to the heavenly nature of Sarah,
So it's not
which
really,
is more of the porn stuff too.
but it's certainly not attacking Sarah. It
Oh,
just,
no.
It just conveys
Yeah. Right.
the norm of God being male.
Right, yeah. And then
Now this is this the doll?
this
Is that
a little
a Sarah
more.
Palin
This is
doll?
a
Action
Sarah
figure?
Palin doll with that little mini skirt, and that's a gun in that little case
Oh,
right
has she got a
there.
holster on her
and
leg?
the black leather and all that, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So this is sort of again.
And she's got that black.
She's godly,
like the
but-
Matrix. Remember the
Yes. It
does
the,
look
the
like
guys
the
in the Matrix.
Matrix.
All of they all that fighting. That vinyl black, whatever it is.
So her doll is kind of cool as opposed to Hillary, who's the nutcracker.
Nutcracker. They
Yeah.
also have her in a little schoolgirl outfit for a doll, which is another pornographic
Another
fantasy.
porn fantasy.
More
Yeah,
porn
of course.
fantasies. Oh, here she is. The only difference between a hockey mom and a pit bull is lipstick. And there she is with the gun again. That's the one I thought we had
There we
earlier.
go.
But here she's calling upon the power of the pit bull.
That's
right.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And then you get, that one we've seen. You also get a lot of, the only difference between, oh no, a pit bull with lipstick can still be a bitch. There's some buttons like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
And so,
more of the same.
yeah, we've seen
Oh,
that.
we've seen. Okay, so we're back.
Yeah, we're
so
back to
that's
where
it.
we were.
That's an amazing body of work there, Jane.
Yeah.
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 And this,
How does that make you feel when you're looking for all those images and you collect those images? Does it?
I do find it outrageous. I think it's really important. I don't have to teach anybody what these stereotypes mean. Everybody gets them.
Everybody
you don't
knows
have to
the
explain
language.
Everybody knows the language. We've been
Yeah.
imbued with it. Again, whether it's hurtful to us or whether it's praising who we are in the society, these caricatures, we all know the language.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to make it conscious and make us have to deal with the actual implications of this. The last image I have in the exhibit is a mirror, and I ask everybody to look into the mirror on the way out. And are you being caricatured in this exhibit, and how is it influencing how you're seeing this? And really, what place does any of this kind of, really, I think, a form of hate speech have in a democracy founded on equality and justice?
Exactly.
At least nominally, and let's hope in reality.
Yeah. Wow. And clearly, and just again, to reemphasize the point that when you see this kind of gender and racial sliming going on, that's really an indication of the discomfort in our culture that does not have expression, does not get addressed, but that's very real and that's influencing people everywhere. And so
Influencing people's lives if you're tracked into certain areas because of the gender that you are, or the color of your skin, or your ethnicity, then there's not equality. So it really thrives. The whole thing just pivots off of inequality and just fosters that inequality. I thought this was a democracy.
well, it's a democratic republic. It's not a pure democracy, and There never has been. I don't know if there's ever been one, but this is definitely not. Maybe one day it will, and certainly the internet is a democratizing influence. So there's hope for the future.
Well, the internet is also allowing access to this all around the world.
Well, I think what
everything
happen,
cuts both ways.
I think it all has to be exposed. I think it all has to come up to the surface in order for us to deal with it. And we deal with it by talking about it. And I think this is really healthy. It's a great dialogue, and we really appreciate, Jane, your work on this. I think it's really important.
Thank you.
It's really
Thank
exciting. We're waiting for the film.
Yeah,
well, also it is
an
exhibit. It's mounted in a.
Except by the time people see this,
is it going to be a traveling exhibit?
Well, it could be a traveling
travel
exhibit. Oh yeah, this could go anywhere.
I love that.
And it has all kinds of explanatory text.
Where?
I teach at Florida Atlantic University.
Florida
Women's
Atlantic
Studies.
University. Okay, so you can
bring Jane to your college.
Bring Jane to your college.
Or just the exhibit.
Or even nonprofits too.
All right.
It's really an education around media, around gender, around politics, and around race.
And the use of
a much
stereotypes
needed one.
Okay, I think that does it. Jane, thank you so much.
Thank you both very
really
much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
It's inspiring.
A great pleasure, and I know that our audience has enjoyed every minute. So.
We have a lot to think about.
Okay.
All right, until next time, everybody, remember, expand your gender vision. It's a great thing to do.
That's right. Bye.
Thank you.